Um, so I did play piano and dance competitively when I was growing up. So I there is probably another world where I may have been like a professional pianist or a professional dancer or something like that. But my parents and my family, they were very smart and they were like, it's not really a sustainable career to do that unless you're like top 1%. So the law definitely came in a bit after. But honestly, I was pre-med when I went to college. Both my parents are doctors, and so I really loved math and science. So it's been a very windy career, but the law came pretty late. That's a good question. I mean, I don't really talk with my clients about music as much as I would like to, like the actual musicianship. Sometimes I'll have clients and they'll send me like, new releases that they're working on and things like that. And so obviously, like, I love to hear that and I kind of engage with them as a fan. But I have not yet had the opportunity to actually talk about, like, oh, what are the notes that you're using? Like, what's the melody? What's the harmony? And so I hopefully I can do that in the future, but I do think that I like to think anyway that it gives me a bit of empathy towards like how musicians are kind of feeling and how they're kind of navigating the industry because I have, a latent creative side, I would say. I think that honestly, what I have had to really like teach myself and learn is that the titles don't really mean much. Like, I think that what I am chasing is just to be like the best that I can be at what I'm doing. And so, if I happen to get a title, like that's great, but I really just want to be known as, I want to be known for doing good work. I want to be known for being like trustworthy and for being like very competent and very capable. And so I just kind of try to focus on that and focus less on, what the titles and the accolades are because those can always come and go. But, you try to build something that's lasting. Question two. I mean, I think, when I was applying to grad school, so I had worked 6 years in between college and grad school, which is a bit different from most lawyers. A lot of lawyers will come straight from college or they'll take maybe 2 or 3 years off. So I had worked, like I said, I worked in the nonprofit space for about 6 years in between, and I always knew I was really passionate about music. And so because of that, I think I was very clear-headed about why I was applying to grad school. And so again, like honestly, I was not actually that interested in Harvard. Like I applied just because it's like, you apply to Harvard, but I was more interested in the schools that really have strong like music law and music business programs. So I was really targeting schools in like LA and New York. When I ended up getting into Harvard, I got off the wait list in both the business school and the law school. So it was a surprise to me. Like I had no inkling that I would actually ever get in. And so when I ended up getting in, I was like, oh, well, okay, this is an opportunity that's really difficult to pass up. But again, I wasn't really chasing like the title or the accolade or the status. I was just trying to figure out how to make a career in the music industry. Mm. That's a very good question. I mean, I think that, you know, generally it's just tough, right? I think that, being a creative, it's it's even harder now than it was in the past to actually build a sustainable career. I think, if we look back in history, like when I was growing up in the late 80s, early 90s, like CDs were a huge thing, like the music industry, the recording industry, I should say, was really booming. And then when I was in high school, that's kind of when, the digital evolution kind of started. And so the recording industry really crashed and nobody was really making any money from the music industry, not even the record labels. Now you have streaming coming into play, like in the early 2000s, and I think that streaming has definitely helped kind of replace a lot of the lost revenues on the recording industry side, on the rights holder side. But I think what the industry has not quite figured out yet is how creatives and musicians get back to, kind of where they were in the past, or even if they should, right? I think many would argue that they should. But I just think that, in the past, like in the 90s, like you'd pay, I don't know, 10 to 15 bucks for a CD, right? And you would own that CD and like that was it. Now you pay like 10 to 11 bucks for the entire catalog of music that you could ever think about, right? And so the pie is simply just smaller. And so I think, it still remains to be seen, how creatives can really make their way in this kind of new industry, this new phase that we see. Navigating the new industry. I mean, if I'm advising, it's interesting because most of my clients are actually kind of big tech companies like film and TV studios where we're working kind of across from musicians and rights holders to get the rights to use their music on services or in original film and TV shows, things like that. But when I'm working with creatives, like musicians, for example, I really just try to tell them like you have to be very careful about the relationships that you're entering into, and you have to be very careful about what you're signing. I think that a lot of the entities in the music industry, understandably and rightfully so, right? Like people get really excited when there's a cool new artist and when they're like very talented and really creative. And so they kind of want to promise the moon and the stars to you. But it's really important to really understand like what the actual contract says, because if they're not obligated to do something, then odds are they're probably not going to do it. So I think just in terms of navigating, like I always try to advise people to just be careful about what they're signing and to be like very clear that they're comfortable with what they're signing and the relationships they're getting into. I think that if somebody has the key to that, it is not me. But I would say that, like, what I have seen is that I think in the past, there were a lot of gatekeepers, right? Basically, the main gatekeepers were like major record labels, major music publishers, they would promote to radio, and that's like kind of the way that you got discovered. Now, like, you can get discovered from anywhere, like it was SoundCloud like 10 years ago. Now, honestly, I don't even know what it is. I guess it's TikTok and like even, new things, right? So there's a lot of it's been democratized, like your ability to kind of get discovered. But I do think that makes it a bit harder because there's a lot of noise and there's a lot more people that you're competing against because the barrier to entry is so much lower. So I think about like new and kind of creative ways. So, like I mentioned, I represent several film and TV studios. And I think that, the music for film and TV space is a very interesting space. I think most emerging artists are generally kind of looking to get signed to a major recording deal, a major publishing deal. But I think that like if you're looking to get your music placed in like an original film or an original TV show, like that's a new kind of avenue to try to get your music discovered. It's a potentially new revenue stream. And so thinking about like ways that are kind of outside the traditional industry and kind of just thinking outside the box. Hmm. These are all very good questions. I think that I mean, I would say that I don't know if I would call myself successful per se, but I do think that um, having clarity of vision and purpose is very helpful because I think that there are so many different options and opportunities for people to pursue. There's also like so many problems in the world. And so I think that at least looking backwards, I felt like I was very clear and specific that I wanted to work in the music industry in some capacity. Wasn't sure what capacity, but I knew I wanted to work in that industry. And so it just helped me kind of like prioritize my time and determine like what I should be pursuing and what I shouldn't be pursuing, and if any opportunity presented in front of me would help me get to that ultimate goal. So I think that like it's really helpful to have at least some sort of clarity of vision and purpose so that, every step you take, you can determine like, is this on the path to getting me to where I want to be, or is it gonna sidetrack me?